it's Ross here. I'm going to be talking about my deck that I played at the YCS this past weekend. It is a branded deck, branded 50 cards, ooh, spicy. And I'll be talking about tech choices, the matchups that I had, as well as the different lines that I went through to try and get past the competition. I came 197th, which is freaking fantastic. I'm so proud of myself. It's my first YCS, holy Moses. Yeah, cool beans. I'll just hop into the game, or rather hop into the deck, talk about the matchups, talk about different lines, whatever else. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, I played Branded Despia. It's a 50 card variant, so I'm just going to hop right into it. We can talk about the tech choices as we go. And if you have any questions towards the end, either shoot them to David or to Duel for School down in the comments, and I'll try and jump in myself. Cool. Alrighty then. So, obviously to start, we have the Gothic theatre child himself, Aluber. You gotta have 3 of him, no problem. I would never change that whatsoever. Unless, well, hang on, that's actually not strictly true. There are certain variants, like the adventure variant, where you want to open branded opening instead of this chap, but I don't play the adventure variant. I don't think many people actually do. We play 2 tragedy, because again, 50 card variant, you want to see these cards at some point. You don't want to get them banished by your opponent's face down banishing effects. Not calling out any deck in particular, but some do be doing that. There are some tricky nice plays with tragedy where you can recycle the expulsion and other kind of traps that you need. You can also set your branded fusion face down from the grave, and you can activate it again the same turn because it's a normal spell. That's super useful. It does come up. Yeah, wouldn't change 2. Even the 40 card variant, I know most people play 1, and I think that's fine, but I do prefer 2, especially if you're running a lure. The card just is gas, is value, is fantastic. And then the last Despia name we play is Ad Libitum Despia. Ad Libitum is a wonderful little card. Some people are cutting it. I can see why. However, we do run 2 Chimera in this build, so with Ad Lib, you're able to recycle your dudes. Actually, do we run 2? We don't run 2. Forget I said that. I'd like to run 2, but this comes up because it allows you to recycle your Dragoon for an extra negate, and allows you to just push for game when they get rid of your Mirror Jade. It's very good. Very good. I actually miss Dramaturge as well. I'd like to find a room for it at some point. Yeah. Anyway, it's really good because it's like really good into because you can set it up in ways that you have your Dramaturge on the field, and then in your opponent's turn you can trigger a fusion summon and then negate something on board. It's very strong. Next we play triple Fawn of Albaz. Fawn of Albaz is the heart and soul of this deck. Everything revolves around him. You want to have these 3 because they get banished face down, they get banished face up, they get removed. Things happen. You want 3. I want 3. I'm not brave enough for 2. 3 allows me to fuse with my opponent's monsters way more frequently. With Rimbrum in the grave, I can bring this guy back, fuse with my opponent's monsters, get over things that I wouldn't normally be able to get over. You know, like for example, I can threaten the board. I can bait out an Arise Heart banish with this, or I can bait out an Arise Heart banish with something else entirely, and then fuse away the monster back into a Mirror Jade and just go off from there, and then banish their Shangri-La, and then we're laughing. This card outs the Dryden Pass, mostly because you bait the Arise Heart and you normal summon this, and you just break their board. Done. It's a fantastic card. Oh my god, I would never go down to 2. It's up to you, of course. If you're braver than I am, go with 2. If you're addicted to the fusion summoning method that I am, you want 1, 3. We have our little groupie package here. We have these 3, and then we have 2 Mercurier. So you obviously notice the spicy thing here is the 2 Mercurier rather than the 1. 2 Mercurier because Mercurier can actually be used from field as well as hand for the negate. So you can bring it back with Branded Expulsion, and you can bring back another banished target and they can't bell you when they're both banished. So if you bring this back, not only do you have, if you have a Fawn of Albaz fusion monster on the board, you can use this monster's negate the same turn it gets summoned, and you can lock them out with Gimmick Puppet if you want to as well. But yeah, super powerful stuff. I love the adding, the recycling, everything. It's so fantastic. Some people are running 2 Cartesia. I don't mind that. I do wish I did it sometimes. But again, I'm only running 1 of the Grand Grignal, so 1 Cartesia, even though it can facilitate so much. 1 is all I really need for right now. Spriggan's Kit, love the card so much. So much. You can run the Springed in the extra deck, and it brings back into in the end phase, and you can start doing your own plays during your opponent's during your end phase rather, and then during your opponent's turn, if you send a Spring during the end phase, you can get back a card that's banished in the grave or in the deck. That catches so many people out. It's so good. So keep that in mind. That's not just from deck; it's from grave or banished as well. Albion is also a card that people are running a 2 of in some bigger builds. I only think 1 is fine. The upstart effect is fantastic. Nobody ever negates it. Why would you? It sends for cost, so you can send like an opening for protection and then get a draw 1. It's just like, why wouldn't you? It also allows you to get them in the grave for tragedy to recycle, or retribution later on the turn as well. It's pretty good. It's part of the Bestial combo as well. We have 1 Dark Magician for the Dragoon plays. 1 Dark Magician. I don't like it. I don't like having to run a 1 of, even though I love the card. For Dragoon in the extra deck, it takes up 2 whole slots where that could be taken up by like super body targets or something. But Dragoon is a fantastic card. It does put so much pressure on board and helps you push for game. But at the same time, I wish we didn't have to run it. You know, perhaps in the next iteration of the format, we won't have to run Dragoon. It won't have to be a must. No, not saying it is a must, but you know, it's an easy must. Anyway, now our Bestial package is a bit weird. I'm gonna put out the Bestials that we have first. So we're running 4. We're running the Libellion, we're running the Saronir, the Magnamut, and 1 Druid's Worm. In bigger variants, some people run multiple Libellion. I don't think that's incorrect. I don't think that's wrong. I do prefer just 1 though, because you can kind of brick on it. And at 50, I think it's a happy medium to have extra Bestials, because you can use this to recycle your other ones if you need to. So it's not bad. It's not terrible. Now, where the spice comes in is with the Chaos Space. Now, Chaos Space is not something that you see standard in Branded Despia decks, and this card gives so much value. All right, let me explain. So, and just to put this out there, I made it to day 2 in the YCS, and I was playing the mirror match, and I did lose this mirror match, but we were both running Chaos Space. The only difference was this chap was also running Super Poly, and Super Poly absolutely just wrecks my nonsense in the mirror match. I wasn't running it myself. I should have. That's something I would swap out later on. I'll show you what cards I'd swap out for those in the side deck later on. But yeah, Chaos Space, unbelievably good card. So the combo with this is that you would first open any dark monster. The best ones to open are either this or this, so Tragedy or Mercurier. If you open Tragedy or Mercurier with Chaos Space, it allows you to send either of them, obviously, for cost, so you don't trigger their effects just yet, and you search the Libellion, and then the Libellion searches you one of the Bestials. So the best one to get, generally speaking, is probably the Saronir. And then the Saronir allows you to banish either one of these, summon the Saronir, and either get your Cartesia, your Fawn of Albaz, your Albion, whatever you need. Generally speaking, you can take the Albion and take the quick route out of this thing. You don't have to, but the Albion, we'll just say, is the easiest one to pick. You can take the Tragedy, and then with the Tragedy, you can take a Luber, or the missing piece you're missing. But I would I love using the Mercurier line, right? So we'll take, for example, the Mercurier. The Mercurier's in the grave, and you take the Albion. So you have Albion in hand, and you have Libellion in grave, and you have a Saronir in hand. Saronir effect, banish the Mercurier. Well, Mercurier is banished because we searched Albion. So Sarnier's on field now. You use Albion to send, you send a Retribution. You draw a blank card, right? So we have one blank card now. And use the Sarnier as material to bring back the Libellion, set Lost. And then you use the Sarnier Engrave to send Branded Fusion. And then you use the Retribution Engrave to bring back the Branded Fusion to your hand. So now you have a blank, one of. You have Branded Fusion, you've Lost on field, and a Libellion. Which means you can now, later on in the turn, you can search the Cartesia off the Branded Lost, or you can search another Mercurier for a negate. And then this is your Cartesia bait, so you can get Cartesia on the field later on in the turn, fuse with Libellion, and that's your full combo, or your Gimmick Puppet combo if you wanted to. You can do all sorts of things with this thing. Yeah, it's just really, really solid. Now, why it's so good is not just because of what it does, but rather the pressure it puts on your opponent. Because if you shotgun Chaos Space, and you discard anything like the Mercurier or Tragedy, whatever else, they see Chaos Space as too much value. It's Ash bait. They throw down an Ash and you're free to go off on your normal summon Luber, you're free to go off on anything you want, because even with these cards engraved, you maybe have another way of banishing the cards later on in the turn. And the Tragedy engrave is not bad either, because you can get a Branded Fusion engrave at some point and then use the Tragedy engrave to banish itself to reset the Branded Fusion. You can also banish this engrave, get the Libellion back to your deck, and then draw one. Or you can get one of your fusions that are banished back to the deck and draw one. It's so, so good. I run it at 2. 3 felt too much for the amount of cards that I was running, because I was only, again, running 1 Libellion. If I was running 3, I'd definitely run 3 of these. If I was running 2, I'd probably run 3 of these as well. There were builds that I was iterating with before this, like a 60 card variant where I was running the Chaos Creator and 2 Cartesia. Because Cartesia can be, and a Gamma as well, but that's beside the point. Cartesia can be used with Chaos Space, because you can activate Chaos Space, send the Cartesia, search the Chaos Creator, and the Chaos Creator can banish the cards in the grave, triggering not Tragedy because it needs to be banished by a card effect, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, if Mercurier is banished by anything, including cost, it triggers its effect. So you can do a search off that as well, like for Fallen of Albaz or another name or whatever else. It's super friggin' good, super modular. It keeps you going, and that one extra card at the end of the turn or at the start of the turn really pays off a lot of the time. If you aren't running Chaos Space, I would highly recommend giving it a go. I don't know if you'd, again, the guy I was facing was playing a 44 card variant and he was running this, so if you wanted to run this along with your allures, it's well worth it. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. Even in the next format with the Synchro variants, it's going to be absolutely incredible with the Quests and all that kind of good stuff. Anyway, then for Boardbreaker monsters, we ran 3 Kaijus. I think these guys overperformed at the weekend. They dealt with so much, like a Nat Beast or an Arise Heart or Shangri La that fully locked my board or something like that. Just does absolute numbers. So good. I'd run more, but I don't like them. It is very good, but I don't like them. I don't like opening too many of them, you know what I mean? Because you have so much draw power in this deck, you're going to see it at some point. It goes without saying, we run 3 Branded Fusion. The card is absolutely nuts. I'm going to be so sad the day this gets hit, because it has to at some point, right? It's just fantastic. Heart and Soul of the deck. We run 3 opening. We run 1 Branded in red, 1 white, 1 lost. Some thicker variants like mine run 2 Branded in red. There's definitely an argument to be made, but this deck more so likes to banish the Despias from the grave a lot to recur the spells from the grave. And for that reason alone is the only reason why I won 1, and as well as that, only 1 Chimera. Yeah, makes sense, I guess. Then the honorary branded card at the moment is Fusion Deployment. Branded Deployment. God, that'd be awesome. Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment brings out your Cartesia or Fallen of Apaz or Dark Magician to attack for game. It's super nice, especially for the early bait, because it special summons from deck, and that can be a target for negation real early. Yeah, super fantastic, especially if you're getting Cartesia on board for the later turn. We have 3 Allure of Darkness, absolutely stupendous. I wanted to run a card destruction as well because that card is also pretty good in this deck. Getting names engraved is super handy, even the spells, because you recycle so much. There's no point in worrying about things. Allure of Darkness, amazing stuff. Now there are definite times where I got lucky because I top decked this into an empty board and empty hand, activated this, drew a Tragedy, drew like Foolish Burial or something, and then banished the Tragedy, got the Aluber, and this went off. Otherwise that could have been a blank card like a Foolish Burial or something like that. And that really, what it would do similar things, having an extra card in hand is really handy for the discard off of Rebellion later on the turn. So 2 of these are definitely a must. Or rather 3 of those. I can say 2 if you want, but 3 is better. 2 starters. So these guys, Banish or Foolish, and the targets are usually the Mercurier or the Tragedy. You can do either or, but these cards are also fantastic even in the smaller variants. You still run these. These are amazing. Yeah, don't snooze on these guys. Then for the traps, now there are a bit more after this, but I'm just going to show you this little package here. The trap package you run are these 3. I would probably swap out this guy. Either I wouldn't run it at all, or put it in the side deck, and I'd run find space for like a Super Poly in the main. I could probably find space actually. If I don't want to run Dragoon, I'd probably cut this and cut the Dark Magician and maybe run 2 Super Poly. I can find space for a 3rd maybe, but I think Super Poly is a bit better into the current format, especially with the extra deck options. Like if we have Garura and Mud Dragon, the boards that the decks that I lost to make will fold much easier to a Super Poly than to one of these things. My logic with this was to bring back monsters from the grave to just protect my board. If I got stuck under Anti-Spell or Floodgate or something like that, I could use this to fuse away my opponent's monsters and just push for game if I ever need to, like poke for it. And it banishes them as well, which is very useful. And it did come up, and it is very good in mirror match. But I don't know if I like necessarily starting with it. Retribution, part of every combo that doesn't involve opening Branded Fusion. It's super good. You can also recycle it back to your deck using Spriggan's Kit, so keep that in mind. Like if you just have 1 card in hand, it's Spriggan's Kit, and you normal summon Spriggan's Kit, add this back from Banished, and then you just put this card back to your deck, you can mill it later on, or you can send it from the deck to the grave later on, or if you have an Albion in the grave, you can send it to grave that turn, and you can just use it to recycle it as a spell from the grave. It's super good. And then Expulsion. Expulsion is you're out to the common board breakers of the format, and it's also part of your gimmick lock. Expulsion is you're out to evenly matched. Expulsion is you're out to so many scary boards in the format. It is such an incredible card, and it will get hella banned real quick if I think that Konami wants to continue pushing branded support. They don't want this in the game, because otherwise it becomes such an incredibly toxic deck. They can't just ban the Gimmick Puppet, because there's so many other horrendous targets for this. Like for example, you have what's it called, Ra's Disciple, you have the other ones, Jin Zone, whatever else. You just have to ban this one, even though there is another monster coming in Cyberstorm Access that does the exact same thing. But instead of from Banished, it has to come from Grave, and I believe you have to use certain types of tributes as well, or something like that. But whatever the case may be, it has to come from Grave, so that's way easier to disrupt with Bestials, or with disruptions such as Bell. But yeah, Expulsion, unbelievable card. It's definitely getting banned, guys. I'm not gonna mince words here. It's getting banned. Gimmick Puppet could get banned, and if it does and they leave this, I don't know what they're doing, but leaving this is a mistake. I'd like if they left it though, don't get me wrong. Now here comes what I call the hoping Branded Fusion doesn't get ashed line. We have Crossout Designator and we have Ash Blossom. Now I do run 2 Ash Blossom, not 3. 2 for a very specific reason. 2 because the 3rd slot went to Gimmick Puppet. I main Gimmick Puppet. Ash Blossom doesn't stop the decks that I'm most afraid of, right? So like if you Ash Blossom a Theosis, they still have Birth, right? If you Ash Blossom the Field Spell, if Ash Blossom any of those things, it could stop it, but like I'm going to be breaking their board faster with like a hand with a Kaiju or with a Fawn of Abyss or something. Whereas if I open my turn, if I start the game, Gimmick Puppet allows me to lock them out way quicker and just get an auto win game 1. Now, there are lines in this deck where if you want to end your turn with Gimmick Puppet, generally you're going to want to go really convoluted. You're going to want to basically Branded Fusion, either send it or send it off your Grand Wignall, and it's just minus value, right? If you get disrupted at some point, you need the Grignal to set up a different type of board, or you need to banish something else with your Mirror Jade or something like that, and it gets awkward. But say, for example, you still want to go your Lost line and send your Lubellion off of your Branded Fusion to go into Albion, and then Albion into Lubellion, and then Lubellion into Mirror Jade. And say you wanted to set up the Grignal to send something else other than the Gimmick Puppet, and you don't get ashed, or maybe you play around the ash or something like that, you can use Crossout Designator, or if you run out of ashes or whatever else. Anyway, so if you can use Crossout Designator during the end phase, after you use the Albion to set Branded Expulsion from deck, you can use the Crossout Designator during the end phase as a quick effect from hand, declare Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, banish it, and now it's protected from Bell. So you would definitely banish, because of the Albion fusion effect, you would be banishing a Fawn of Albaz and something else. And you don't really recycle what you banish from that. You leave 1 card there, because the Fawn of Albaz does, but the other card doesn't get recycled. If this card is banished along with the other card, they can't bell you, they can't stop you. There's no other way to stop it that I know of, like from hand or whatever else during that starting phase, generally speaking. So you flip Expulsion, you tribute your monster, generate the Grignal, and you target either the Mercurier, the whatever you banished, and then the Gimmick Puppet, and you send them the Gimmick Puppet, you get the Mercurier, and you win game 1. That's generally how it goes. This card is a combo piece. You can also banish like the Dark Magician. It can also banish literally pretty much anything, right? It's so good as a combo piece, as an extender, as well as something that negates these monsters, right? Because say, for example, you need to get another piece. Maybe you open Gimmick Puppet and this, and you fuse normally, you start doing your bits and pieces normally, but you're missing like another banished monster towards the end of the turn, and you need like an Eluber banished or something, right? You go Crossout Designator during the end phase, you call Eluber, you banish it at the end of it, you banish it because of Crossout Designator, and Eluber is now banished. You Expulsion, bring back the Eluber, you search your missing piece during the next turn, and you have the Gimmick Puppet there as well. This card does numbers. It is so good. Don't set it and pass, because your opponent's not going to, like, statistically, no one's going to be playing Branded against you, and if they are, this card obviously gets set. But if you're against someone who isn't playing Branded and they're not going to be running the same cards that you are, there's no reason to just set this and pass, or not to use it during the end phase. Get that material banished, get stuff out there, because you can use this to push past hand traps. You can use it to set up combo lines. You can set up for resources that are banished, all these kind of things. Declare anything in your deck, because Expulsion will bring it back. It's so good to think about it that way. There's other applications of it, but that's basically what I've been doing, and it caught so many people off guard. Like, I would send the regular cards, and they were thinking, oh, you don't have Gimmick Puppet, and they don't disrupt anything. And sometimes people hold the Ash for the Albion towards the end of the turn to stop the Expulsion being set. But if they see that and they only see 1 card banished, they're going to hold it because they have the Bell in hand. and then I'll toss this out, and I'll call Giving Puppet, and they go, oh, okay, sure. It's super, super nice. Yeah, I wouldn't change that. I love 3 crosshair designator. I think it's so powerful, and I think thinking about it in ways as an extender rather than like a bridge for negation is also really helpful in the current meta game. And then the last 2 cards obviously are Ash, which you saw already. Cool. Gonna hop into the extra deck real quick. Nothing crazy in here. We got 2 Mirror Jade, 2 Albion, 2 Lebellion. Yeah, some people are cutting this to 1. I was too terrified. Giving it 2. All good. We have 2 Dragoon. I don't want either of them to get banished, and if they do, we're gonna cry. I don't like running it. It takes up too much space in the extra deck. I'd love to run more Despia fusions or more Fawn of Albaz fusions. Maybe in the next format when Arise Heart's gone, but I think this is kind of somewhat necessary now, especially in the Labyrinth matchup, whatever else. I'll do 1 Chimera. I miss having 2. I miss the Edge package. I miss recurring stuff every single turn, drawing into hand traps and gas, and oh my goodness, it's so good. We run 1 Masquerade. Masquerade is actually an important bridge because now it can be any other name, like, but Masquerade is good because it's a tax dragon. Obviously, it stops those big combo decks from pushing too hard. I made this against a Mathmech player, and they did their standard lines, but made access code, but like really weirdly. It cost them too many life points. And when they popped it, I brought back the Aluber from the grave, targeted the access code, negated its effects, and had a body on board, and they couldn't smash for game. And then this guy came back next turn because he had a monster in the extra monster zone space, and then I fused away with this to make Mirror Jade, and I just slammed for game. It was fantastic. It's super good. The recursion effect is often overlooked, but it's very, very powerful. Guignol, honorary branded name. It's super, super good. Heart and soul of most combos. If a cash player knows what they're doing, banishing this is the best thing to do. It just kills Cartesia lines. It stops you being able to kind of do weird fanciful plays that you don't have branded fusion. You're trying to bluff that you do, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Run it. Then we run this guy for a target for it. Now you can run Priskinian. I prefer this because it has the effect to bring back a Despia monster or Fawn of Albaz monster. That's really, really good against Mathmech. I was terrified of Mathmech. I didn't lose to Mathmech this weekend. This is a fantastic card. It does numbers, and if they don't sequence their plays properly, their attacks do nothing. It's very good. Oh, there are certain occasions when you're against a Kashtira player, and the only out to this is to banish it, right? And if they have, they make a board of 3 cash monsters, and they try to enter battle phase, and you chain this effect, all they're going to do is chain Fenrir effect on resolution of that, banish your monster, make push or enter battle phase and attack for game. There is absolutely no reason to do that. You should let them enter battle phase, let Fenrir attack into this, destroy it or banish it, whatever else, and then let them just attack. Take the damage. It's better that way, because otherwise you will take too much damage and you will probably lose. Losing this isn't the worst thing. If you have an Aluber in the grave and it comes back, you can negate something important and have an extra body. Yeah, it's one of those cards that the sequencing and timing is so important of this thing. If your opponent doesn't see the sequencing, you can probably plus off of it, but just don't fire this when you see a big board. Wait for them to declare battle phase. See what's on the board, see what's there. If you see like a big negate coming, activate it then. Yeah, it's very, very powerful, but just keep that in mind. Priskinian is also very good, especially if you're playing a more aggressive style, but Quertus, I think, just has that pizzazz and ability to just recur an entire board if you know what you're doing. We run the Rinbrum. Rinbrum is amazing. It's a 1 card add to most small cash boards. yeah, even sending it for cost off of Mirror Jade is also fantastic. It's very, very powerful. Unbelievably good card. Keep it. We run this guy. So I used to run Starving Venom Fusion Dragon, thanks to David for the suggestion. But Titanic Lad allows you to get over the Towers monsters because it's unaffected by monster effects. And it also gets huge. Usually I think it goes to 4100 is usually the standard. 4 plus 8 is 12. 12 plus 25. 37. Okay, so usually goes to 37. Yeah. Which you can push it if you run Nib or a really higher level monster. If you run 11 plus, yeah, you can get it to 4k if you send a Nib, which I don't run. But yeah, sometimes you can like take a higher level monster, fuse with it, whatever else. Anyway, long story short, this card is nuts. It's super, super good. I summoned it once or twice, but the best thing to do with it is to send it to search a Fawn of Abaz during the end phase. That's usually what it is. I did run Starving Venom. That Starving Venom does beat Towers monsters way more. I didn't think I was going to lose to any of them, and I didn't. So the Starving Venom didn't come up. But this card is my stand-in for it, and it's also a Fawn of Abaz target for the normal summon fuse opponent's monster, because that did come up. Yeah, Titanic Lad, good card. And then lastly, we run the Sprint for the Contact C, which did come up. And for just the being sent for the Spriggan's Kit to search towards the end phase, that came up way more. You got to run this, unfortunately. It's very, very good though. Even its on-field effect isn't terrible, but it's just not great. The side deck, I think, was grand. There's definitely a couple of things I would change. I'll talk about those as we go. But yeah, we played 3 Lancia. Wouldn't change this. Good gravy was this good. If you pass with a suboptimal board into a cash player and they start to zone lock you, don't just shotgun this, because if you wait until they have Diablosis on the field and then toss this, they're just stuck with like a Diablosis and a Shangri-La, and that's it. And they're like, oh, okay, can't do nothing with that. Lancia, super good. It also stops a lot of plays just randomly. It's very, very good. It also stops Runic, only on their turn though, of course. Now it does stop you using Mirror Jade and some odd effects here and there, but I think it's worth it if you time it correctly. It's so good, so good. We play Jinzo for the expulsion target for Labyrinth trap decks. It did come up and it did stop them. It's brilliant. We run a heavier Bestial package in here as well. We side these in against Mathmech and the Mirror. Mathmech rocks me hard because of their absolute crazy ability to just plus off of nothing. So this stops them starting. If you're going second against them, you got to do it. It's just so good, and it also stops not circular, the trap card that they use to bring back all the monsters from the grave. It's very, very good. We run some extra kaijus. I run 3 in the main, 2 at the side. If we're going up against something that I know has towers in there, I will side this in. It comes up so much. Kaijus are unbelievably good. Definitely run at least 3 in the main. I would highly advise you run more in the side deck. I wasn't brave enough to go directly into the Slumber. You could. That also, some of my teammates told me they were fantastic in certain matchups. I would also recommend doing that if you want to. Now, last minute, I did side this in instead of a Cosmic Cyclone. I never missed the Cyclone, but I also never used this. In the opportunities that I had to run it, they flipped Anti-Spell on me, and I just went, well, okay, that's fine. This card is good. I don't know if it's necessarily good into the current format with Branded. I'd probably count this as like a flex spot, and I'd probably run something else instead of it. Maybe the Super Polys is what I was thinking, or Slumber. And then finally, the absolute best board breaker of the format, evenly matched. It beats literally everything except for Branded, because they can just play around it with Expulsion, or they can just use Adlib to dodge it entirely. It's super, super good. I wouldn't change it for the world. Oop. And that was the deck. My matchups were kind of strange. I played a bunch of Kashtira, and maybe I think 3 Cash, maybe 4 in total. I beat them all. My only losses were to Plunder Patrol, Adventure, Ishizu, which was just phenomenal. They were, and by phenomenal, I don't mean the actual engine was phenomenal. I lost to the million hand traps they had for God knows how many reasons, and the Ishizu card in the grave, which actually stopped me using Branded and Red at some point. So you know what? I can't really be mad at opening the absolute nuts against this deck. I was disappointed, of course, but I wasn't mad. And then I lost to the mirror match because he had Super Poly. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Open Super Poly every single game. Just straight up draw phase priority, Super Poly, expulsion dead. Bam. What can you do? And now I did attempt to play around it by ending on 1 fusion monster, and I did lock him game 2, and then game 3 he went first, and it was just a bit of attrition at that point. But the Super Polys clenched it because he made Dragoon in his burn for game in time. Can't be mad. I'm glad Branded did well. He was also running the Chaos Space engine and said it was absolutely the nuts as well. So you know it's good when you're in day 2 and you're playing against Branded and they open Chaos Space and you're like, oh yeah, vilified. I also lost to Sprite, one of the variants that ended up topping. Sprite Melfi, I believe it was. They just had so much value. It was absolutely insane. I could not get a foot in the door. You need a lot more hand traps to stop that thing, and even then, with board breakers that I had, it wasn't enough. Very impressive. Yeah, you'd probably need to play a bit more conservative than I did against them. I tried to just blow past their board, and I did break their board, but they top decked, starter and just played away. And I was like, okay, well, can't stop that now. But yeah, I had a draw as well in there. So I went 4-1 yeah, I went so I made day 2, played all 12 rounds. I got 7 wins, 4 losses and a draw at the end, I believe, right? Yeah, so it was pretty fantastic. I would think that Branded can stand up to the majority of the meta. Even a Churia Runic, when they set up Nat Beast, you can make plays, you can make waves. There's ways and means around things. Normason Fawn of Albaz does absolute numbers. Yeah, great deck. Had a great time with it. I would change a few things. I wouldn't go down to 40. 44 is like the magic number for me when it comes to Branded. 50 I loved. I wish I could make 60 work without not seeing the cards I want to see. Yeah, cool beans. Thanks so much for having me, David. Good luck, everyone. If you have any questions, again, pop them down in the comments and I'll take a look. Have a good day. Toodaloo. Oh yeah, obviously shoutouts. Shout out to my entire team, TKB, the Kree Bros, fantastic chaps. I loved meeting the contingent we had over in London. Really sound peeps. Shout out to Dream Clown. Shout out to Joshua Schmidt for signing my card. I got the gold Karibo as well, which is, my god, what are the chances of that? Shout out to David for being super, super kind, super nice. Shout out to pretty much everyone in Gamers World for being fantastic and always testing with me. And all the advice. Shout out to the Branded brothers, Art and Luke, and everyone else who plays Branded. Yeah, see yous. Bye bye.